Now, if I was to say things were under control and going well, I would be lying to you. We decided to pull off a two-man siege with the help of a doggo against World's End, and it is not going well for us. Severely underestimated the tech hunters. Turns out that they are particularly well equipped, well trained, and very good at fighting. And then back at home, we have a raid from the Hungry Bandits. Not a massive issue, slight inconvenience at best. We do have GNU who is locked up, but GNU thankfully is getting some lockpicking in, so is able to escape and then cause some damage. The reason we are up in World's End is we are after some mercenary armour. Due to us being a holy nation, we cannot trade with anyone else that is not human or is anyone that would associate with the Narkos. So we came up to World's End, found a bunch of Narcos, so naturally we have to try and purge them. The Adventurer Squad is a little ways away, but how much are they going to do for the war effort? Not too much, but they might make some decent cannon fodder and hopefully stop the tech hunters from being able to heal and get back up. And with that out of the way, how are we doing, you beautiful people? Welcome back to Kenshi, episode 19 of Rise of the Holy Nation. When you come in and you see everything going wrong, but we got a bunch of juggernauts and an Orion Crocodile, so long as we stick with it, we will eventually win if everything goes right and I don't make mistakes and I don't micro badly, which is a very realistic possibility that I am going to, and things are going to go wrong. If we do not lose anyone in this fight, I will class that as a very, very good going. Is it going to be painful to watch? Yes. Is my micro abysmal at times? Yes. Am I going to make the wrong choices? Yes. And if all of those sound interesting to you, carry on watching. Possibly smash that like button, subscribe, ring that bell button. I've never done that before. I don't know if it works. Let's see what happens. So what have we learned from the fight so far? Peter cannot fight massive groups of tech hunters. He can fight about 3 at the same time, and he does pretty well. Anything more than 3, we need to pull back, re-engage, pull back, go in. So he can use his alpha strike to get off a whole bunch of damage. The reason this is quite effective is the tech hunters are mainly dexterity builds. And with dexterity builds, as soon as they start taking damage, their dexterity drops, and once their dexterity drops, they become very easy to fight because their armor is not the greatest. It is good armor for a dexterity build, but once they start taking damage, that dexterity drops, and then they don't have the armor to keep them in the fight. So we are in a pretty sweet situation as soon as they start getting damaged. Next thing we have learned is there is a lot of tech hunters, and they're supported by the trade ninjas who also are particularly well equipped and trained. Turns out GNU can sort of pick locks but isn't the greatest at it, but is enough to be able to escape. And now we have the Adventurer Squad coming in. Are we expecting the Adventurer Squad to do a massive amount? No, not really, but they will be able to help support GNU and Peter because they'll stop them from getting overrun. But their main priority is going to be taking out those crossbows. If we can take out the crossbows on the walls, that means Dexter isn't going to take as much bleed damage, and without Dexter taking bleed damage, he is more than capable of shredding through tech hunters, because the tech hunters, like I said, have light armor, and Dexter can absolutely chomp through that in no time. So he can normally in 2 or 3 shots take down most of them, which is pretty sweet. We also had a slight problem with the navigation mesh, which has just been sorted. With that, I think we are just about up to speed, other than there being some starving bandits raiding our base, but that's not a massive issue. Our farmers are more than capable of taking down a few starving bandits, and then also our gunners are getting a whole bunch of experience. The plan with GNU is fairly simple. We want GNU to have decent lockpicking so she can go and run into the armory and try to steal the blueprints. If we can steal those blueprints, then we are pretty much free to disengage so long as we can get everyone out of jail. The other side is there seems to be a couple guys in World's End that have some quite tasty equipment that I think would be a nice addition to our armory. So schematics and extra weapons, and then from here, once this is done, we are going to go straight to the shack. We'll take Squin first. Well, we'll take the hub out first because it's on the way, and then we'll go to Squin, and then we'll move across to Admech and kill a setter. That will then put the end to the shack. We then move up, take out the Fotsum ninjas because they are super annoying. I'm not expecting miracles from them. I'm kind of expecting them to be fairly similar to the tech hunters, but not nearly as well trained or equipped. And then we will have to take down the United Cities, which is going to be fairly challenging. The United Cities are the most powerful nation within Kenshi. Simple as that. They have very good armor, they have very good stats, and very good weapons, and then they also have their crews are fairly mixed up. So they have their heavy boys in the armor, then they also have lighter guys that can attack quicker. So they have a nice composition of characters that we're going to be fighting. So we need our stats, armory, and weapons in the right place before we can even bother to try and fight them, or we are just going to get overrun real simple. Dexter is back in the fight and we have secured the front gate, which means there is no more harpoons shooting down on us, which puts us in a pretty nice situation. The only issue is there is so many tech hunters and so many trade ninjas left within the town that if we aggro too far up, we are going to run into some serious issues because we are just going to get overrun. GNU is now free. Looks like in the retreat the rest of the tech hunters decided to join the party. There wasn't this many earlier. Not that there is a crazy amount of them, and a lot of them still haven't engaged, but this is a little bit bigger of a squad than we are going to be able to deal with at the moment given our current state. We're pretty beaten up, we're pretty battered, we are not in the greatest of situations, and generally we are outnumbered. And them having that high dexterity, as I keep saying, is causing us some issues. But the Juggernauts have crazy quick regen. Thankfully, the tech hunters are a little bit simple, so once they knock you out, they just pick you up, put you in the jail cell and heal you. So all you got to do is then just pick the lock again, get out, and you're back in the fight. So we don't need to worry too much about one of our people bleeding out, but we do need to keep an eye on the animals because the animals will take a lot of bleed damage and have a chance of bleeding out. So an easy example is just Midnight over here, who is pretty beaten up and at a risk of bleeding out at the moment. So we need a little bit of first aid, should stabilise him, and then we should be in a decent enough situation to figure something out. And what we figured out is we can't really fight the tech hunters in the town. So we have decided to pull back, hopefully split their numbers, and then try to defeat them in detail. So we take little bits at a time, try to wear them down, strip them of their weapons, so then obviously they don't have any, and then they can't do as much damage because their martial arts aren't too great. And then we'll just start picking them apart like this. Bit by bit, piece by piece, we will dismantle the tech hunters. Then we'll get the schematics, disengage, get back to the base, build all the stuff we need, kill the Shek, and then come back and stab the tech hunters in the face until they don't get back up again. And when we return, we'll have all of the nice schematics and armors that they so lovingly let us have. It is in fights like this that not having limb dismemberment is a big issue, because there are quite a few of those tech hunters that would now be legless or armless if limb dismemberment was on. But obviously it being Holy Nation playthrough, it is not on. Turns out actually trying to take over a town that you can't just overrun becomes a lot hard with limb dismemberment turned off, which I think is a interesting balance. We've also managed to lure out a bunch more tech hunters and knock them down outside of the town, and if we can just stay on top of it, it'll stop them from healing and hopefully they'll bleed out, which again goes back to that limb dismemberment thing. A lot of them would be bleeding out quite quickly right now because they would have lost limbs, but obviously they haven't. But I like to think that that is actually quite a fun way to balance it. So having limb dismemberment on makes the game quite interesting because you can lose limbs, but then you can replace them with robotics, but you're also at the risk of your guys bleeding out. But then when you turn it on, it turns out if it's not a fight that you can't just steamroll through, it makes the fight a lot harder. So it is a very interesting way to balance it. Peter is now down. We do have GNU. GNU's going to escape. GNU's going to try and set other people free, and then we're just going to get to causing as much damage as we can. Slight change of plan. We are going to send GNU straight into the weapon store, or the weaponsmith, just so we can see if we can pick up anything decent from in there. I'm not expecting much, but I think a couple more weapon schematics for back at the base wouldn't go amiss. It'll be quite a nice addition to have, because at the moment we are only producing combat cleavers, which are good weapons, and they're very fitting with the Holy Nation playthrough. Just a little bit more flavour would be quite nice. So anything we get hands on, we will take. Not that it has to be great or has to be super useful. A little bit of variety and mixing things up is always nice. We do have a couple guards come in trying to stop us. As there is only two and we're indoors, GNU is going to have an absolute field day with taking these guys down. Once this is done here, we'll head across to the armory. Peter is finally being arrested. He's going to be put in a jail cell, but a nice thing about that is they don't take what's in your inventory, so all he needs to do is just move the ninja blade across and then they won't take it, and then they'll just drop the plank on the floor. So as soon as he picks the cage and he gets back out, he is going to be straight back to the killing. Here is one of the guys with one of those May-2 weapons that we're saying about earlier, and okay, yeah, that went about as well as I was expecting. Must have got a headshot on GNU. That is something that we do need to look into for the Juggernauts, is some decent head armour. So Pete is wearing a visored helmet, which I think is only medium grade, and GNU is wearing like this monocle, but the monocle gives her extra attack speed and dexterity, which is a decent balance. I do like a bit of dexterity on my characters, but as you can see, everyone is now down or arrested or in a coma. So, super sweet situation, and let's try to get this figured out, and let's start wrecking some more things. Midnight got back up but was taken down again super quickly and was at risk of bleeding out. So we got Peter to escape. Peter ran down, healed Midnight up. So Midnight is stabilised now, and there's only a couple tech hunters and a trade ninja around. So it is pretty easy for Peter to clear them up. And these are the fights that we want to be taking when there isn't too many tech hunters or trade ninjas at the same time. Once they're in small groups, we can absolutely wreck them. But when they're in the big numbers, we run into a lot of difficulties. But then that is a part of the fun of it. As you can see, Dexter in the background just nomming on people like a good boy that he is. But I am surprised, seeing as we've been here for quite a while, that a Holy Nation patrol hasn't come through. Because a lot of the times in other playthroughs, when we've been up in World's End, the Holy Nation likes to send patrols through. They get wrecked like instantly, don't get me wrong, they're not super useful. But just having that extra manpower in this area would be quite nice for us. Dexter is unfortunately down. These bleed weapons are causing him a lot of issue, and it looks like that tech hunter right there has our weapons. So we'll take him down, and then we'll get our kit back, re-equip our guys, so once they go for another breakout, we are going to be able to cause a whole ton of damage. And yeah, took all of our weapons, that cheeky monkey. And there is another one with some of our weapons. So the plan's pretty simple with this. We load all the weapons up onto Peter, then when anyone escapes they come down to Peter. Peter then gives them the weapons so they're able to fight. Because our guys are not trained in martial arts, nor does their equipment really allow them to fight in it. But it does mean we haven't lost them. Surprisingly easy to find your weapons on the tech hunters. With any other one that you fight and they take your weapons, it is virtually impossible to find them again. But thankfully tech hunters are really primitive in their loadout, and all they have is ninja blades. So you see anything curved or anything too big, well then you know it's one of yours. It's as simple as that, and we are just going to carry on wrecking face, doing what damage we can, pulling apart everything that we can, and just generally making a massive nuisance. So even if they do hold, they won't be in a good situation afterwards for our counter-attack. With all the Adventurers Guild pretty much being awake right now, we have them picking the locks of their cells. So once we're in a good situation, we're going to break everyone out at the same time, and hopefully this way we can put up more of a fight against the tech hunters. GNU has managed to make it to the armory, so is going through, and we are hunting for those blueprints. And as soon as we find the blueprints, we're going to learn them, and we are going to get our armor smith to start crafting them. So by the time we get back down to the base, we should have a couple sets of armor ready to go. We are into the first chest. We have got the blood mask, and we are looking for something else if there's anything yet. And we have mercenary bassinet. So that is one part of the mercenary kit down. We only need to find the greaves, the boots, and the torso armor, and we are going to be in a pretty sweet situation with all of the stuff that we got. Hopefully he will have the rest of the schematics. People don't seem to be aggroing too much. I think we must have taken out the shop guard, who must have been that person that attacked us just earlier, but they are down. But we've got a little bit of company coming in, so we'll finish them off and then hopefully get back to looting. Indoors we do have a nice advantage because the ninja blade is super good indoors, but then again they've all got ninja blades, so it's going to balance out, but we have thicker armor. We will start production on the bassinet, so when we get back to the base we'll have a few of them ready. It is looking like it's going to be a decent bit of kit, and hopefully it will scale well, because not every item seems to scale the same way. I know they're meant to, but not everything does. So let's hope when they start being produced at Masterwork and Specialist grade, they are going to be a tidy bit of kit. I do like the Raider helmet, but it just seems a little bit lacking for what we're after. This just seems like a good excuse to try a bunch of different armors out. There doesn't seem to be too much around at the moment, but then we haven't really managed to get into any of the good chests. So we'll carry on looking, we'll carry on going, and hopefully we get some good kit out of this. Looks like Mr. Maytu has come back to the fight. He even had the drop on us and we were able to block it. So I'd like to think in a one-on-one we might stand a chance, but I can guarantee it is not going to stay at a one-on-one, and the other tech hunters are soon to either get up or try to join in. But if we can get that Maytu, whatever it is, I'm not sure which weapon it is, but it looks kind of funky and cool, and I kind of want it, so we are going to go and get it. But this goes back to the point earlier about Peter's helmet. His helmet sucks, so he will run into a lot of difficulties if he starts getting hit in the head. Also, his leg armor isn't great, but that is something that we are looking into. And with that bassinet, and hopefully we can get a few specialist and masterwork ones by the time we get back to the base, so our guys will have some pretty decent head protection. It is a shame it is not what we came for. We did come for the mercenary torso and the mercenary greaves, but at the moment we can't seem to find them, so we are gonna carry on looking. Thankfully we do have the tech hunters pretty split, so the top of the town is now largely undefended, he says as everyone runs in. But most of them seem to be at the bottom of the town trying to heal each other up and arrest my guys. Just on a side note to let you guys know, we do have the Discord set up, which it is linked down in the description, and because my micromanagement is so terrible and poor, I have started playing StarCraft 2 to try and get my micro skills up and try to get my APM up, so it's going to be a little bit easier to watch. So if you want to add me as a friend on there, you are all welcome. It is Dynasty Slayer, but without the R at the end because it's too many characters. But anyway, back to the game. It would seem that GNU has just about secured the armory, so once these last two are down, we can get into the decent chests. What we want to make sure is that we don't take out the armorsmith, because this means that if we carry on fighting, which it looks like we will, if it goes in tomorrow, his stock will restock, fancy that, and then we should have a second chance at trying to get the mercenary kit. If he dies, the stock won't reset, and then we are stuck with what we got, which means that we'll need to find a second place to go to, which I imagine would be Black Scratch. Or maybe the Armor King. We could go to the Armor King on the way back, that is not a bad shout. We get to kill a robot and a whole load of access to some masterwork and specialist grade armors, which would also be super nice. Also, he will have a whole load of schematics, which will yet again help us in this righteous cause that we are pursuing. Just got the schematic for the mercenary sabatons. Unfortunately, their stats are not super great, so sticking with the EX boots for now I think will be a better idea, but we'll kick a few of them out, see what they're like and see if they are any good. Foolishly just released a bunch of the adventurer squad without thinking, and they are pretty much all either locked back up now or knocked out, so super smart on my part. We are going back to the base because there seems to be an issue with the production of the heavy armor, so we will go and sort that out. But with this, ladies and gentlemen, I need to bring the episode to an end, so thank you very much for watching episode 19 of Rise of the Holy Nation. All your likes, comments, subs, support have been amazing. You guys are awesome, and I'll catch you on the next one.